Yeah, so for Christmas, he got her a rape whistle. I know, it's so stupid, isn't it? Like, I don't even understand. Why would she need a rape whistle? In fact, why does I don't know why they even exist. Like, why would you want to, if you're raping someone, why would you want to draw attention to yourself? Do you know what I mean? Like, pepper spray makes sense to me. Hello? What is wrong with my mother? Hi, Sheddies, it's me, Eddie Stevens. I'm in my shed. The time is my time. Doesn't matter, does it? Doesn't matter what time it is. But it is a Tuesday, which is my regular day to record this podcast. This is 3 weeks in a row I've done this. 3 weeks in a row I've put the video out with poor sound quality and way too long on YouTube. And getting very few views, if I'm honest. And for some reason, I'm getting off on it. Like, I enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it's possible to enjoy Schadenfreude at your own expense. But I see, like, the last video got, like, 7 views. It's really weird because I get lots of people listening to my podcast. And I get people messaging me all the time, telling me how great it is. By the thousands of people, for all you know, tell me that. But the YouTube thing not going so well, which is weird because do you know that I have a separate YouTube channel called LPR Recovery? I'm not going to even explain it. But that's one that it did have, I think, a couple thousand subscribers, thousands of views. Now no one gives a shit about it, but I did save lives with that. Check that out if you want to. You don't have to. I'm not going to force you to. I'm so pissed off. Last night I went and did an open mic, a comedy open mic, for the first time in probably 6 or 7 months. Some of you might not know that I do stand-up comedy, and I'm actually fucking amazing at it. But I barely do it, right? I've been doing... They generally, if you want to do stand-up comedy, you have to do at the very least one set a week. That's not even enough. Most comics will say you need to be doing 4 or 5 sets a week. For the last couple of years, probably even longer, I've been averaging about 1 set a month. And for my New Year's resolution, I've never had a New Year's resolution before. I have 3 New Year's resolutions this year that I decided on. 1 is stop being a loser. 2 is get more pussy. Although that's not going to be a problem. 3 is, what was I just talking about it? Oh yeah, actually focus on stand-up, do more. And part of my plan was, you know how I do, so if you're listening on whatever podcasting platform you listen to me on, you don't know. When I finish my silly little intro where I talk bollocks, which for some people is the best bit for the introverts, when I finish that on the podcast, if you're listening to it, just the audio podcast, there's just some like intro music, and then it cuts into the main part of the podcast, which is rugby centric. But on the YouTube channel, if you're watching it, you'll know that there's usually, instead of that intro music, I put a little video there. And usually it's just something really weird. Now, my plan was to record my set at this open mic last night, and I would start using little clips of my stand-up as that little segue, that little intro segue. So this is how my mind works. First of all, went to the open mic, miserable, was thinking, miserable is not the right word, pessimistic. Generally, if you've never been to a comedy open mic, it's usually a few miserable open micers, comics who suck, and they don't want anyone to do better than them. So if you go up and do well, they sit there with their arms crossed looking miserable. Sometimes you get lucky and there's cool comics there that are just happy to listen to good comedy. Sometimes if you're really lucky, there's people who aren't comics there, and they're just the general public, and they will enjoy it generally, if you're good. But I sat outside this open mic for a while because the sign up was at 7 p.m. I got there early by mistake. And but I walk in at 7 p.m. expecting to see, if anybody, a bunch of dipshits. And I immediately see one of my favorite comedy buddies, Cody Dove, who's a comedy magician, or he doesn't always do magic. And actually shout out to Cody Dove. He's on the road hosting Wheel of Fortune in America. And then another friend of mine who I hadn't seen in over 10 years, little Nicky Munoz. He doesn't like being called that. Nico Munoz. And we hung out. We had a great time. They both told me I looked great, which is fine. Ended up being a huge crowd of supportive comedians. And then I had a great set. Now, here's the problem. I recorded my friend Little Nicky Munoz. Got a great video of him, sent it to him. The only reason I recorded him is I said, hey, do you want me to record your set? And he said, oh, yeah, sure. And I went, oh, yeah, and then you can record mine. It was just to get him to record mine. But in the end, I realized I could just prop my phone, which I used to record my sets, just prop my phone up on a table, and it was like perfect. So I recorded his set, thought I recorded mine until this morning when I realized I hadn't hit record. When I finished my set, which went great, I went to turn off the recording, but started the recording, and in the end, accidentally spied on one of my friend's black mic. I went outside with Black Mike and then T-Gram. And yes, T-Gram is black. What gave it away? Very black name. T-Gram and Black Mike, who is half Asian. Sorry about that airplane. Why am I apologizing? Went outside with him and we talked about interracial relationships, and I have it on camera. And I could use it probably to destroy him because I feel like he was giving away a lot of black society's secrets. Not that we need them. We're all the same, aren't we? Bunch of dipshits. Anyway, so I don't have video, which I really wanted. I was going to record every set and start really promoting my comedy for once and actually trying. But that's okay. It was just an open mic with a small-ish crowd. Just know that it went well and I'm better than you think. I was going to say better than you, but that is not true. In fact, my entire set was about what a loser I am. Self-effacing, self-degrading, self-deprecating, self-defecating. That's not true. When's the last time you shit yourself? It doesn't matter. I've done my usual thing. I don't know what episode we're on. And I'm going to find out for you right now. Right now, this me talking right now is just filling in the gaps so there's no dead air. My phone is being weird. What episode? You probably already know because you're obsessed. You're obsessed with my podcast. Okay, here we go. It's Rugby Rant Banter, episode 274. Let's go.
Chop, chop.
All right. Okay, rugby. Great weekend of rugby we had. I'm just trying to find my notes. I apologize. Great weekend of rugby. Bittersweet because it was a fun weekend of rugby as per usual in the Prem. But now we've got to look forward to 3 weeks of no Prem and Champions Cup shit matches that I've tried not to be negative about Champions Cup. I tried to get excited about it, but it is shit, isn't it? I'm not even going to talk about it. We're just going to talk about the weekend's rugby. I watched every single match. Not highlights of one. I didn't fall asleep during any. I watched every single match. And was thoroughly entertained. Right from the get-go. First match I watched, Bristol versus Sale. Now, on Egg Chasers, shout out to Egg Chasers. By the way, do you remember I used to do a shout-out segment every now and then with like mad music? And I would just like do shout-outs for various listeners and stuff, people who I felt like deserved it. For the new year, on this episode, I'm going to do shout-outs. But I haven't written a list of who to shout out to. So it might be crap. I don't know what's going to happen. But I'll try and remember everyone I want to shout out to. But Bristol versus Sale. On Egg Chasers, shout out to Egg Chasers, I'll do it properly later. They were talking about Bristol versus Sale in a very negative, well, they're being very negative towards Sale. Mostly JB was, I should say. Which, I mean, I get it, but I don't really understand that level of, like, am I the only person who didn't expect Sale to beat Bristol and actually think they did pretty well? And it was a good, close match, a tight, difficult win for Bristol. Yes, they were away from home, but it's not French rugby. That happens. And, I don't know. I didn't really see it as Sale being terrible and unable to compete or unable to attack properly. I felt like it was two good teams in a really tough fight, and Bristol just about came out on top. I mean, before this match, I think if you asked the general rugby public who's more likely to win the Premiership, Sale or Bristol. I think Bristol are probably more favourite, don't you think? Surely. So it was a good game. Annoying that Rafi Quirk... Well, first of all, annoying that Rafi Quirk is not allowed to play a match at scrum half. Early in the game, he's forced to move to the wing because of an injury somewhere else, I think it was. By the way, though, absolutely player of the match. Ellis Genge got player of the match because he played great and Bristol won. But Rafi Quirk, that was the fucking Rafi Quirk show, wasn't it? He was amazing. I keep saying it. Insane athlete. He has an athleticism as a scrum half that makes him so special and unique and so good that this is why Borthwick had him in his squad even when he barely played, probably wasn't even fit yet. You just have to try and get him in the squad. Now, of course, I shouldn't be saying any of this because I've gone and bloody shidest him. I've been hyping him up and now he's injured again. I don't know how serious the injury is. I'm really hopeful that it wasn't that bad because at least he wasn't stretchered off. At least I don't think he was. I seem to remember him kind of limping off. So hopefully it's just a little thing and he'll be out for 1 or 2 games and he'll be back better than ever. That's what I fucking really hope. Because scrum half is one area, I think, in England that we don't have a lot of depth. You've got Alex Mitchell, who's world class. You've got Ben Spencer, who's right there. I mean, he's really fucking good, isn't he? And then who? Little Harry Randall's just come back from injury, and I had a conversation with brother Captain Brother Frank, of the Rugby Brethren. I said there's Alex Mitchell, Ben Spencer, and then who? Van Portfleet, who I'm not a fan of. And he said, what about Little Harry Randall? And I said, well, he's only just come back from injury. And then Captain Brother Frank said, well, you were hyping up Little Harry Randall after... you were hyping up Rafi Quirk as the world's greatest scrum half after 1 game back. Well, here's the thing. I didn't mean to call out Captain Brother Frank. My point is, yeah, if Little Harry Randall came back and played the way that Rafi Quirk has been playing, I'd say, holy shit, told you Little Harry Randall is amazing. Fucking love him. He'll be straight back into the squad. But he's had 1 game and he was all right. That's all. So he's still on my radar, but I can't look at him as an England contender until he's either put together, he needs to put together a couple of really good performances that would, for me, when a player has an extended injury period where they're unable to play, when they come back, they start from scratch. I don't ever look at, if Rafi Quirk had come back from injury and played the way Little Harry Randall did, which is not bad, but it's not outstanding, nothing special, I'd frankly be a bit worried. I'd say, okay, he's not the player he was. And that happens sometimes. But in the case of Rafi Quirk, if you watch him, he's incredible. Now, let's hope I haven't shidest him to death. A more negative assessment, if you happen to see my video I did during the week of players to watch over the weekend, yes, Rafi Quirk was one of them for obvious reasons, because it was the Rafi Quirk show, this game. Ellis Genge won man of the match, but if Sale had won, it would have been Rafi Quirk. He was incredible. But another player I named in the players to watch, I did 3 players from every team every team competing, and I named James Harper from Sale, not because I thought he was going to do anything amazing, but because he is a player, a prop, who has failed in spectacular fashion. I've never seen a prop look so dejected and humiliated and walk off a pitch ever in my life at Premiership level as I have with James Harper. And then he disappeared for at least a season, and now he's back and he's being started. And I thought this could go very badly for him. Now, here's the thing. I don't remember sort of the flow of the game, how the scrums went. But I definitely noticed Ellis Genge getting the better of him a few times. And to mention Egg Chasers and JB again. JB said exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking exactly this watching them. You've got Ellis Genge, who looks like I've always said Ellis Genge looks like he's resisting the urge to kill everybody the entire time he's on the pitch. Like he's very upset and he wants to hurt people. And James Harper looked like he didn't want to be there. He looked timid and like, oh fuck, let's get this over with. It's kind of tragic for a prop. And the thing is, like, I got to hold my hand up. There was a time when he first came on the scene, I was hyping him up as a potential England player of the future, just because he must have, I don't even remember how he played, but he must have been decent when he first started playing for Sale. And he's bloody massive. So it's a shame. But psychologically, something's wrong. He needs to get way more aggressive. They need to start shooting him up with Tren or something. Trenbolone, the steroid. Give him some roid rage. I just looked at my notes and yeah, I'd said, just as I predicted, James Harper got folded like a deck chair at the first scrum. I think it got a little bit better, but it was never great. Very sloppy, chaotic first 10 minutes from both teams. I do remember that. Both teams looked sloppy. But, I mean, it was probably just the aggression. It was probably the defense being aggressive from both sides. Little note here. I'm going to just refer to my notes. Rafi Quirk tearing defense apart and Carpenter linking well. Quirk is just such a great athlete. It was his first third start in 5 years, which is crazy. A lot of people noticed that comment by the commentators. Someone mentioned it. It's the first time he's had 3 consecutive starts in a row in 5 years, which is unbelievable. Let's see. Oh, I didn't even realize Louis Rees-Zammit was playing until he got injured and limped off. In the 36th minute. He got concussed. He didn't limp off. He got concussed and he went off, failed his HMA. Sorry, he didn't fail his... I wrote he failed his HMA, but he... is it HMA? Head what assessment? Head... It is a... I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Anyway, he passed it, but he chose not to go back on and said he wasn't feeling well. And I have no doubt that he's not lying, but it did seem like at the time he was just having a bad game and said, I don't want to play anymore. That's obviously not true. 7-7 at halftime was a fair reflection of the match. Another player that I've hyped up before, I mentioned James Harper, and now I'm conceding that I was wrong about him. Another player that I hyped up a lot was, not a lot, but a bit, was Marcy White. I do think he's had a few injuries that have made it hard for him to get consistent form. But when I watch him play now, the last couple of times I watched him play, he's really offered nothing. Really. Even as I say that, I do remember a game where he had a lovely break. But I do think there is a weird... So for the longest time, English rugby was obsessed with imports, right? If someone was from New Zealand or South Africa, it was like, oh, get them in the England team. They must be good. I feel like that's toned down a bit now. I don't want to make this a racial thing, but it's not. It's more just a sort of a perception thing. I think that because Marcy White is Polynesian, we get super excited about his destructive abilities because they have that reputation. And then at Sale, there is this tendency for people to want to compare him to Tuolangi, Manu Tuolangi. But he's really nothing like him. Now, I'm probably doing him a disservice. I think he's probably a better player than I'm implying he is now. But all I'm trying to say is I think I got a bit carried away with him, and I'm not sure we're ever going to see him play for England. Because centre used to be a weak area, but as I mentioned, I think last week, maybe the week before, we got plenty of good centres now. Let me have a sip of my coffee. Will you just let me? Oh, God. Drinking out my pussy cup. Oh, God. My obligatory complaint about Gus Waugh. I don't know why I hate him. Fucking Gus Waugh, though. I notice he does this weird, aggressive thing where, he's the smallest and, at least on appearance, weakest player on the pitch every time he plays. But he's like really tenacious in an annoying way. And I noticed he does this thing where he gets into it with people, then he walks away and he points at them like really aggressively, as if he could back it up. It is driving me insane. Oh yeah, and in this case, when I saw him do it in this game, it was at Revuvu, who seconds later completely smoked Gus War, stepped him, and ran on his way to score a try line. It was the ultimate, oh really, you know what I mean? That was the match-winning try, I think. But anyway, yeah, that game in general, quite chaotic at times, enjoyable to watch. Felt sorry for Rafi Quirk and Sale that he just cannot get through a game at scrum half. Of course, last week I think it was a tactical substitution because everyone seems to like Gus War. I will say he's fine. Like he's. I've talked about this before. There is an argument that your team is better with a scrum half who just passes quickly and box kicks well than a super athlete like Rafi Quirk. It annoys me, but that there is a possibility that as much as I think Rafi Quirk is much better than Gus War, Sale might be a better team with Gus War at 9. It's mental, but maybe it's true. Because Gus War doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He's never going to do anything outrageously great. You know, if he scores a try, it's because he's lucky. He's in the right place at the right time. Someone passes them the ball. He's never going to make a great break. He's certainly never going to do anything physically dominating or impressive. But he is just going to whip the ball out, put it in the right places, and kick the ball pretty accurately, pretty consistently. Rafi Quirk is always going to do something outrageous athletically, but he also might fuck up a box kick. He might fuck up a clearance. He might fuck up a pass. He might not go the right direction. You know, I hope that, you know, he's had 3 starts in 5 years, 3 consecutive starts in 5 years. So if he can get to the point where he's as consistent as a player like Gus War, but again, maybe he can't be. Maybe when you're that good of an athlete, the temptation is always to try and do things by yourself. I'm talking about it too much. Let's move on. Newcastle versus Gloucester. In many ways, the game of the weekend because Newcastle finally win a game. I do want to say, so with Bristol and Sale, I said that, you know, JB at Egg Chasers was being a bit hard on Sale. That was, you know, Bristol and no mugs, and losing to them in the dying seconds is no great humiliation. And less so in this case, but Newcastle, I think I've said this, have been steadily improving. They rarely get completely, they've obviously lost every game until this one, but they've been right in it, battling most games. And I've seen a steady improvement with them. I don't know at what point, Stephen Jones started coaching there. And I think Dave Ward is there. Dave Ward is at Exeter, isn't he? There's somebody else at Newcastle that didn't used to be there who's kind of high profile. But they are looking better and better, and they deserved this win. But I do have to say, Gloucester looked shit. I mean, forget about the opposition. They look, I mean, it is a nightmare. There's no getting around it. I don't know who to blame, but just they don't look like they don't even look like they're being coached. They looked so sloppy, made so many mistakes. Whereas, like, you'd probably say Gloucester have better players than Newcastle, just in terms of talent and ability, but they're not playing as a team, whereas Newcastle really played as a team. Let me check my notes. Yeah, if I read my notes, it's even worse. I said, my God, Gloucester are in trouble. I didn't think it was as bad as this, and it's not that they lost to Newcastle. It's not... I don't know what the fuck that meant. I just said they looked incompetent in every aspect of their play. Lineouts are a joke. Ball handling a joke. Support play a joke. Tactics a joke. I suppose they defended okay, but that's all they could do. And really, their lineouts lost them the game. Now I remember, like, that might be the worst hooker performance I've ever seen, just from his lineouts. What was the guy's name? Did I write it down? I don't think I even bothered. I just said their hooker. I haven't seen him play before. But all I could think after, like, over a half of this, of a hooker unable to throw the ball straight and getting angry with the ref every time. How bad must their replacement hooker have been? I don't even remember if they ever replaced him, but Jesus Christ, if there was ever a time to replace your hooker, that was it. And he just kept playing for a long, long time and just cost them the game, probably. Gloucester definitely missed Thomas Williams, who I mention in my players to watch because he was definitely listed as starting in Draft XV, the fantasy rugby game. So maybe he pulled out at the last minute. So it happened with somebody else, because I had somebody starting in my team. Who was it? I had somebody starting because I always check with my fantasy team to make sure all the players I have are starting. They were all starting. And then somebody was not in the team, and I got angry with Draft XV, and then I found out it wasn't Draft XV's fault. It was they pulled out at the last second in training or something. But I can't remember who that was. I'll probably remember at some point. Let's see. I'll tell you who looked. So I mentioned in players to watch Christian Wade for obvious reasons. But do you know who was Newcastle's best player? And I mean this. It was Obata Yimbo. Am I saying his name right? He wasn't a player to watch for me. I've never rated him. I've seen him have decent games, but he was he had one sliced kick that could have cost them. But ball carrying, defending, and just for a winger, just how busy he was, super impressive. This drove me mad. This annoyed me so much that I made a little YouTube short video and put it online. The yellow cards for the altercation. Let me just make sure. There was a Newcastle player, I think it was Hodgson, and then Arthur Clarke. So if you didn't see the game, Arthur Clarke tackles the Newcastle player, totally fairly, lands on the ground. The Newcastle player straight up punches him in the face, clearly, unprovoked. He must have felt like he got hit late or something, but he wasn't. And even if he was, you don't get to punch people in the face. Punch in the face is a straight red card. Always. Isn't it? Isn't a punch in the face always a red card? Even if you're retaliating? So he punched him in the face. Arthur Clarke naturally grabs him and kind of does the forearm in his face thing. Maybe he leans in a bit hard, but I mean, he's just been punched in the face. And I wouldn't call it a punch that he did. I would say it was a forceful grapple, right? They get up, and let me just make sure I'm not getting this wrong. 2 yellow cards. 2 yellow cards. So, first of all, a punch to the face is not a red card. And secondly, a punch to the face is deemed no worse than somebody pushing someone on the ground and putting their elbow in their face. Make sense of that, please. And then it gets worse, because later, Ollie Thorley runs into somebody. Ollie Thorley's. He tries to kill himself by carrying like a completely demented horse on meth. Just fucking runs straight into somebody. Actually, was this one a tackle? Let me see. I can't remember. I actually think it was a tackle. But either way, he makes contact with a player and there's accidental head-on-head, which leaves Ollie Thorley worse off than the guy he's trying to tackle. Blood all over his face. He gets a red card. Now, I'm not saying it shouldn't be a red card, but if that's a red card, how the fuck is accidental head-on-head playing rugby considered a worse offence than deliberately punching someone in the face? The worst refereeing of the... I'm going to start doing... When I made that little YouTube short, I added a clown filter. I'm going to start doing like refereeing clown... I haven't thought of a good word for it, but basically clown of the week. Like I'm gonna mock poor refereeing performances. If there aren't always like these egregious, terrible decisions. But there's usually something a little bit weird. But that's the worst I've seen in a while. That was fucking ridiculous. Speaking of Ollie Thorley, by the way, with the head-on-head, I said that he's Ollie Thorley's. That's what he does. Ollie Thorley is at what point do you just not accept that he's a liability? he's almost always carded for something stupid like that, and he almost always has to go off injured because of it. I remember a conversation with Moony once where I hadn't seen the Gloucester game, and I asked him about it. He said, "It's great. Ollie Thorley is dead," and I couldn't stop laughing because I knew exactly what that meant. When Ollie Thorley is dead, yes, he's obviously run like a demented psychopath headfirst into someone and knocked himself out, which is exactly what happened. Okay, at some point I'm going to get talking about the number 8 situation, with Tom Willis no longer making himself available because he's a piece of shit. Ben Earl being very clearly our first choice number 8. And there's a lot of discussion about who should be next in line. Now at Exeter, and Moony and his minions, they obviously are hyping up Greg Fizzleout. I'll get into that later. I'm saving that for later. But I do want to say, some people start talking about Callum Chick at Northampton. I don't know why I said Northampton like that. Northampton. As a potential England player, because he does all this hard work and is just sort of quietly really effective. And you look at his stats and he has all these carries. And I'm fine with that. But do you know who I think is like a better version of Callum Chick that no one is talking about? I can't remember his first name. That's how rarely he's talked about. I think it's Jack, but I'll just say his last name, Clement. The Gloucester number 8. I'm much more impressed with someone who stands out, performs well for a team playing like shit, where all around him is just chaos and pathetic performances. If you can stand out in a side like that, that's more impressive than playing for Saints, who right now are the form team in the Prem and are kind of killing everybody. And Clement, once again, in a bad Gloucester performance, looked amazing. He looks amazing. He is so physical. He carries so hard, and he has a high work rate. I haven't seen his stats, so I don't know what his yards are or anything like that. But he hits hard. I would love to see him brought into the England squad. No one's talking about him, but I almost stole someone else's saying. Just trust me. Remember me saying this. Mark my words. He'll be. I'm not saying he's going to play for England, but he'll be in the England squad at some point, unless I've just got this weird feeling another nation is going to nab him. Like, where? Or is he Welsh? I looked him up on Wikipedia. It said he's English, but has he already played for Wales or something? I don't fucking know. Anyway, he's really good. Newcastle deserved that win. It was a very close score in the end, but I think Newcastle deserved that. But Gloucester, yeah, they're in big shit. They're in big trouble. Then again, you could totally see them winning the next couple of games, because that's what the Prem is like. All these teams are very competitive, and I think Gloucester are also a different team without Thomas Williams. They really miss you-know-who, Carreras. Okay, next match. Okay, we'll do it now. Bath versus Exeter. Can you imagine how delighted I was with that start by Bath? Now, here's the thing. I said this before. Back in the day, Saints have always been my favourite team. But I've always had a soft spot for Exeter. Always liked them. Ever since they came up from the Championship, or whatever it was called at the time. I think it was called the Rugby Championship. They came up, and I think they played Gloucester in their first game. And this was at a time where we were used to teams yo-yoing. Like, what would happen is Worcester or Newcastle would get relegated. It was always Worcester or Newcastle, maybe London Irish. And then a team would come up from the Championship, be absolutely awful, get completely dominated all season, and go back down again. So Exeter came up, and that's what I expected to happen with them. And they beat Gloucester in their opening game. And it was shocking. Everyone was shocked. And then they just went on to get better and better and better. And I loved them. I've always loved so many Exeter players. I still don't play. Dave Ewers, Jack Knoll, of course. Henry Slade back then. He's still good. Oh God, there was some like old school. What was his name? There was a flanker they had, a bald flanker. Skaysbrook, loved him. God, I can't believe how hard of a time. Who was the scrum half they had? It was well, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to remember all these fucking names right now. Thomas Waldrom at one point, right? They have had I know I'm forgetting some really great Exeter players that I love, but that's my point. I've always loved Exeter's style of play, this just aggressive, non-compromising. You really got a sense that they played for each other and they were a real family, basically. And then Chiefs for Change came along and completely destroyed it. Chiefs for Change, those people, those sanctimonious, fake, bullshit fucking twats. Because, like, remember, I live in New Mexico. There's a fuck ton of Native Americans living here. I know a bunch of them. Every single one that I asked their opinion on the Exeter Chiefs fucking logo thing, none of them gave a shit. All of them went, why would that offend me? And my general feeling was, why would a bunch of people who give a shit, why would a bunch of people give a shit about a sport they know nothing about in a town they've never heard of? Like, why would they care? And this is one of those goddamn woke things. People, by the way, I love how, I hate this. I hate that you can't even say woke without sounding like, oh, you must be a right-wing raving lunatic. Woke is a thing we can all agree on, even if you like woke shit. People who like woke shit say that woke isn't a real thing. My dickhead brother said that to me the other day because but it is, because we know what woke is. Woke is this excessive, conspicuous display of giving a shit about racism, homophobia, transphobia, etc., sexism, things that if you're a decent person you do care about, but you dive into the woke pool when you start getting upset over every little thing. You won't shut up about it, and you cause more harm than good. So, like, that's the thing with, I've really gone off subject here, and this is old news, but it does piss me off that you had this group of phonies, because there's no way they could care that much. There is no way you could care about a little graphic of a Native American chief, not in any way racist, as confirmed to me by Native Americans I talked to, who, by the way, one of them, he's dead now, but he was a great guy that I used to work with. He was a Redskins fan, and he was pissed off when they changed the logo. He liked the Native American thing. Now here's the thing. Do you think I give a fuck what Exeter Chiefs have as their logo? I always thought it was a bit silly having a Native American logo because it doesn't really work. But then again, you know, in like the NFL, they have the fucking, well, I don't know if they even exist anymore, but Minnesota Vikings, always remember. There's no Vikings in America. It's okay. There's Crusaders in New Zealand. Is that somehow cultural appropriation? I'm getting upset about it, but I'm only upset. Listen, I couldn't give a shit. People get upset about these things, and I like to ignore them. But in this case, they damn near destroyed that team. They ruined their reputation. For a long time, people would refer to Exeter Chiefs as a racist team. It was just bonkers. And then, of course, someone tells me there's a Native American rugby team that are upset about it. Now, I've never even heard of a Native American rugby team. I look it up. I see their official response. You do not honor us with this. Quite the opposite. Well, they're not trying to honor you. Why do they have to honor you? It's got nothing to do with you. It's a fucking logo that is in no way demeaning. It's got nothing. Go fuck. That's what Chiefs tried to say at that time. Go fuck yourself, which is the appropriate response. These motherfuckers, this Native American rugby team, if you can't see that, if you're not watching the video, I'm gesturing like I know. I'm gesturing at this horse's head behind me. I don't know why. By the way, I used to play rugby against a team in New Mexico called Farmington, a town, Farmington, tons of natives. And they had, they called it the Navajo Front Row. And they had massive props. And one of them, his name was Horse. And he was huge and very good at rugby and a very nice man. Anyway, I'm sure he wouldn't care about this. But I've lost track of why I was getting upset about that. I think I was just trying to say I always liked Exeter, and it pissed me off when that happened. And they've had a really hard time recovering from all the turmoil that nonsense created for them. So congratulations to Chiefs for Change. You got nothing to whine about now, but I hope you're at least on some level aware of the damage you did. And you didn't, guess what? You didn't help anyone. Whoa! Whoa! I bet those Native American rugby players are so relieved. I bet that really fucking helped them out. Their lives are so much better. That must have been so awful for them to know that somewhere in the southwest of England, million fucking miles away from them, there was a team that had a tasteful Native American logo because they were called the Chiefs. Everyone knows it's bullshit. The people complaining in England know it's bullshit. The Native Americans that complained know it's bullshit. By the way, do you know what I saw after a while? First I saw their complaint, their disapproval, and then all I would see constantly was their merchandise page that they were sharing, trying to make money. If they knew that they could have complained and they wouldn't, but it would be anonymous and they wouldn't get any publicity and they wouldn't get any profits from selling merchandise and they wouldn't get any attention and anyone kissing their asses because of it, they wouldn't have bothered. Why would they? How does it matter? That's a good 10 minutes of me ranting about that shit. And now this is the kind of thing that made the rugby brethren in my group chat start calling me Adolf Hitler. I haven't said anything bad about Jews. Don't get me started on the Jews. Okay. Let's see. But Bath, fucking hell. Bath versus Exeter. My point I was going to make was, I've always liked Exeter. But because of Moony insanely deciding that I hate Exeter, and especially I hate... What have I ever said about Greg Fisselau, the number 8? All I've ever said was, I think he's good. When I first saw him, I thought he was amazing. I don't think he has been playing at the level that would warrant an England call-up. Now, so what that has meant to Moony is, I hate Fisselau. I think he's shit. So he'll score a try. By the way, a try, it'll just be he'll get the ball, he might break one tackle and score. I see better try. This last weekend, I saw a better try from Alex Dombrandt. Okay, I'm going to get into that in a minute. But anyway, every week I have to see, as Exeter Chiefs have improved, which I would normally be celebrating, and they've been winning, and Greg Fisselau's form has improved, I just get messages from Moony saying, suck it, suck it, suck it every time. And it drives me crazy. Because again, it's like, what am I sucking? I never said, it's like, I'll just pick a random player that Moony doesn't think is great, and then be like, suck it. I could do it with Alex Dombrandt. I know he doesn't rate Alex Dombrandt because no one does except me. And I'll get into that in a minute. But my point is, can you imagine? He has... Well done, Moony. As an Exeter Chiefs fan, you have made me dislike your team. It's nothing against the team or the players, but I cannot help but want them to lose so that Moony doesn't say suck it every fucking week and talk shit to me. Can you imagine how happy I was with the Bath start? Here's my notes. Beno Urbano try, suck it. Alfie Barbary try, suck it, in parentheses, runs over Fisselau, which he did on his way to score his try in his man of the match performance, which was deserved. He was very good. I've heard people say otherwise, not true. Carreras try, suck it. Ollie Lawrence try, suck it. Harvey Skinner kick, 38 minutes and 50 seconds, suck it. I think he sliced a kick. Ben Spencer try, suck it. And then Alfie Barbary, man of the match, suck it. I was so excited about this start. And like, it wouldn't mean Exeter was suddenly shit if Bath had maintained that momentum and won by actually, yes, it would. It would have been bad. But I was only taking pleasure from being able to shove it down Mooney's throat. Now, let me see. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh, just really quickly. It was a brilliant line by the referee where someone was complaining about a deliberate knock-on, and he said, it cannot be deliberately forward if the ball doesn't go forward. So someone sort of swiped at the ball, but it went backwards, which is totally fine. I mean, first of all, the referee said that the player was lucky because it went backwards. It's not luck. He deliberately hit it backwards. But anyway, but people complain, it's a deliberate knock-on. It cannot be a deliberate knock-on if it doesn't go forward. Anyway, but I got one of the first things, like, the first thing I thought when Exeter started coming back into this match, first of all, I knew it was going to happen after a while. I've said it before. It is so true. There is danger in starting a game too well. Every single time I see a team, I've mentioned this recently, because it happened to somebody, it's happened to Saints, Northampton Saints, at least on one occasion. I've seen them start really strong, score a fuck ton of tries, and it's like, oh, it's an ass kicking. But what happens every single time? You don't want to start that strong because it's impossible to maintain that kind of domination. And then your opposition have nothing to lose. They're just trying. They're like, okay, let's knuckle down. Let's score a try. We've got to do it. They get super focused. They score. Good. Back to what's the word I'm looking for? Here we go again, right? Same. Then they score a second try. As soon as they score that second try, all of a sudden they have all the momentum. They have all of the confidence, the positivity, and they claw their way back, and it happens constantly. And this is what happened with Chiefs. I'm not buying this Rob Baxter line that, they just let Bath score a shit ton when they had a red card. Players get red carded all the time. It was a 20-minute red card, right? I mean, it's like, you should be able to defend that. You should not get dominated the way they did. I think that Bath took their foot off the gas. It would have been a travesty if they lost that game. Moony said they got the moral victory, whatever the fuck that means. And I said, yeah, I love a moral victory, almost as good as winning. But I think he just meant that I don't know what he meant by moral victory. He did say that the Exeter fans there were much noisier and better supporters than the Bath fans, which I have no doubt is true. Will Muir, by the way, changing tactics a little bit. Will Muir, I forgot about Will Muir. And watching him in this game, I realised he's like a safer Ollie Thorley. He runs in a very similar way. They call him Horse. Just this very aggressive, powerful running style. He runs players over, he causes havoc, but he tends not to knock himself out, knock other people out, get his head in the wrong place, and do stupid shit. He absolutely fucking ended Varney at one point. He just ran him over. Oh, I can't remember if Varney stayed down for a long time or not. By the way, Feo Waboso, I genuinely think he's the best winger in the world. Exeter, without Feo Waboso, he wins games for Chiefs. In that match, there was just moments where it's like, what can you do about him? He breaks tackle. It's like Rafi Quirk levels of brilliance, you know? I'm joking. He's an even better runner than Rafi Quirk. He's so balanced. He's so strong. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. In that against Bath, he was exceptional. Make sure I'm not missing any notes. I think I've said everything I want to say. But really quickly, before I get into the Saints versus Harlequins match, God, we're at 40 minutes already just for this rugby content. On the number 8 situation, I understand that Greg Fizzolau has been brought into the sort of wider England squad. At this stage, I'm fine with it. I think, I personally, if Tom Willis was fit, he would be my starting number 8. Then I'd have Ben Earl. Then you got Henry Pollock as an option. Then, and I haven't talked about the Quins game yet, but I'm still, I think Alex Dombrand, you're going to hate this. This is going to make you, everything I've said will be rendered bullshit, just if it wasn't already, because of what I'm going to say. But I think Alex Dombrand is amazing. I think he's a very, very good player. I would pick Alex Dombrand ahead of Greg Fizzolau. I'd pick him ahead of basically everyone who is available now except Ben Earl. And I don't know why you all hate him so much. I remember when he first arrived in England, sort of, because he came from Cardiff University, the narrative behind him was, oh, we've got to cap this guy, because I think there was like some contention that maybe he could play for Wales. And people were talking about him as this, his whole point of difference was he was huge. Like he was a big, they talked about him having the same kind of, a rare, like, body type, like a South African number 8. This big, powerful, thick, ball carrier, but also skillful. And somehow, over time, I think because he has such exceptional skills, and he does have a high work rate, and he is very athletic, people get fooled. It's kind of like if someone's... I've talked about this before. If someone is like deemed too small for a position, or just deemed on the small side, people automatically question their defense, even if they're exceptional defensively. With Dombrand, it's a similar phenomenon. I think that because he's so good ball in hand, and he has a lot of flair, and he finds himself out in the wider channels a lot, breaking tackles, scoring tries, people just assume that he must not be doing any of the hard work. But he does the hard work. I don't know what everyone else is seeing. I watched him play, and I'll be talking about this in a minute, but I saw him watching him play just like I said about Clement at Gloucester. He was playing in a terrible team. That where, other players in the back row, for example, Chandler Cunningham South, looked fucking useless. And he still stood out. He stood out more than Clement stands out at Gloucester. I mean, he was prominent in this match. What is not to like? So, for me, yes, you got Ben Earl first choice right now. Pollock as an option. Then I still got Dombrand there. I think he's great. The only other options outside of that are, there's Fizzalau. I've mentioned Clement, and some people have mentioned Callum Chick. Alfie Barbary played great, but I don't think he's in anyone. No one would put him near the England team right now unless he can play a few more games, start a few more games, and recapture his form, which he's lost. He got some serious injuries, and he's never been the same. It's horrible when that happens, but that's what happened. I would say now, Greg Fizzalau being brought into the Six Nations squad is an appropriate, sensible choice. Wouldn't be mine, because I'd have Ben Earl, Pollock, and Dombrand. But I understand that people don't rate Alex Dombrand. If Dombrand is brought into squad, you'll all see it as some kind of regressive step. But I have no doubt that Alex Dombrand is better than Greg Fizzalau. I'm sorry. I could be wrong. But I'd love to see Greg Fizzalau playing for that Harlequins team and do the things that Dombrand does. And don't give me this bullshit about, but you don't see him in person because he's doing all this work that Dombrand wouldn't do. He's just constantly... No. First of all, I think I've mentioned this before. I've seen games live. I recognize there are some things you can see. There's also things you miss. There's also, like, when you watch it on TV with the replays and the close-ups, I will rewind things and rewatch them. You don't get to do that at games. Also, I noticed the last game I was at, which was England versus USA in Washington, D.C., lots of interruptions from talking to your friends. It's kind of hard to focus. And the only thing I would say I could see that I don't think you could see on TV, just based on people's comments of the match, I was watching Chandler Cunningham South, and I did think he worked a lot harder than people were talking about, seem to think. But, I don't know if that's because I was there in person. The only real difference I found is that players looked a lot bigger. Certain players surprised me with their size, like players you wouldn't necessarily think of, like Charlie Atkinson, who everyone thinks is shit now, by the way. I don't want to talk about it, but that shit player that was playing for England in DC, he was a lot bigger in real life than I expected, like just thicker. And then Max Ajomo much bigger too. But that's about it. I don't buy this idea that I'm not... Sometimes Moony sort of implies that because I'm not watching these games live, my opinion isn't relevant. In which case I'll stop doing this podcast. What's the point? I live in fucking America, in New Mexico. It reminds me of this appeal to what's that logical fallacy? An appeal to God, I can't think of the word, but you know what I'm talking about. It reminds me of Hugo Monye. Moony reminds me of Hugo Monye. Because Hugo Monye, I remember once was arguing with Alex, what's his face? You know who I'm talking about. On the whatever fucking, I don't know if it was, I don't know. Alex something, he does a podcast, you know who he is. They're having a disagreement, and Hugo Monye essentially told him, your opinion doesn't count because you've never played top-level rugby. So it's like, oh, okay, his opinion doesn't count, so he should shut up. He shouldn't work anymore. The only people who are allowed to comment are recently retired professional rugby players who watch the games live. All of the rest of us can shut the fuck up. No, we all have opinions. We all see things. And first of all, an opinion can be just as valid. You know, I haven't played top-level rugby, but I bet you I've watched a lot more top-level rugby than Hugo Moony, right? And if I have to be at the games live to have a valid opinion, then I can't do this podcast, can I? So, and I can't disagree with anyone because if they were at the game, they are automatically right. So fuck that up its arse and everyone shut up. That I'm never going to agree with that. I don't agree with it. Saints versus Harlequins. Big start for Quins. Nice offload by Marcus. They got the first score, remember? Okay, here's my Dombrandt spiel that I wrote down. Great offload by Dombrandt in the 16th minute. Haters will say he shouldn't have run toward the touchline, etc., but it's all bias and confirmation bias. Scored at least one try, looks really good, a very bad Quins team. Oh yeah, and I will admit this, I was watching Kenningham after I hyped him up. I said, I put him in my players to watch for this game because I said he's a guy that looks good for Quins every week, even when they're shit. Well, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about because he was completely unnoticeable in this game, whereas Dombrandt stood out. And then it's a bunch of shit that I've already said when I went off on that. It's been a very aggressive, angry tirade of a podcast, hasn't it? I've just been ranting a lot about things. Hendy is amazing. His break and link up with Ram and Cole for the try was stunning. That being said, Cleves was absolutely pedestrian in defence, tracking back. No desperation at all for someone that fast. Yeah, Cassius Cleves at times looked good. Of course, I had him in my fantasy team and then I dropped him, so he immediately started scoring tries, which he wasn't doing when I had him. But for a player that fast, there was a try scored where he was just jogging, and not a good sign. The Saints are playing the most beautiful rugby, aren't they? I wrote here, 20th minute, Mitchell try was as good as it gets with the pace and the forwards interplaying. Oh yeah, this is mean. Mean comment coming. Why did Quins have a 15-year-old transgendered boy playing scrum half? Didn't even look 15 actually, looked about 12. That Quinn scrum half. It was weird. Did you notice? I saw him and my brain went, what the fuck is going on? That is a child. He was fucking tiny, and apparently plays for England under 18s. I feel like he'd be tiny even for that. It looked dangerous having him on there. But then Quins, they had the tiniest little fucking 18-year-old I've ever seen. But then they brought on, I don't know if this guy really was 18 or Austin Healy was confused, but they brought on this absolute juggernaut of a lock who apparently is 18 or 19, whatever it was. He's fucking massive, and he looked about 28. So that was interesting. Sam Graham for Saints, by the way, put in some massive hits in this match. I was saying about Hendy earlier. Hendy is impressive every time I see him. I love him, and I'd love to see him be in the England squad, although there's a lot of competition. My only question mark over him is his defence. There's a couple of times where he's just been stepped pretty easily. He steps people really well, but in defence he doesn't. I'm not saying he's not good enough in defence, but it is my one concern. Anyway, moving on because we're almost at an hour now. Leicester versus Saracens. Freddie Stewart had a really great game. In the Brethren Rugby chat, someone suggested that maybe they didn't see the game and they thought, I don't remember who said it, but they thought he might not have had a good game because he didn't get a lot of fantasy points. I saw his stats from the game. Tons of meters made, at least one try scored, other good stats. He was great. The whole Leicester played so well. Will Wand, the young centre, looked really good. Adam Radwan has to be in contention for England's spot right now. I put Adam Radwan ahead of Hendy, and I love Hendy. Hendy's versatility might get him ahead of Radwan, but what more does Adam Radwan have to fucking do? he really because what he started doing, and I didn't think he had it in him. I've always liked him. I've always thought he was really good because he has this superhuman speed. And he's quite powerful, and he's underrated in defense, I think. But my one issue with him, when he was playing at Newcastle with Carreras on the other wing, was it Mateo Carreras? Very similar players, but the difference was Carreras would go looking for work constantly. And he was just so much busier than any other winger and so destructive. And Radwan never really did that, and I didn't think he was going to be able to do it, but he has started to do that more. In this match, he popped up all over the place. He was very influential and more involved than we're used to seeing him, I think. Let's see. I'm just reading through to make sure I don't miss anything. Oh, yeah. Billy Searle, too. Positive shout out to Moony. He said last week, I think, that he was hyping up Skinner because he thinks every Exeter player is the best in the world, saying that Harvey Skinner is one of the best 10s in the Premiership. But he said, of course, the best is Billy Searle. And I said, well, he's not getting in the England team with that stupid curly hair and big head. But I was judging based on appearance and being a twat. Based on the performance I saw against Saracens, Billy Searle is fucking amazing. Really good at everything. A complete performance. He was very impressive. Oh yeah. Been talking to Moony a lot. Tentatively, he will be on this podcast. I forget the date now, but it'll be the weekend. The Tuesday, the Monday, or was it Tuesday? I think Tuesday, actually, before the Six Nations, the first weekend of Six Nations rugby. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, we were talking about Billy Searle. Somehow Owen Farrell came up, and we were in agreement on this. I actually think that Owen Farrell might be the most overrated rugby player of all time. He's not shit, but basically, even at his best, he could pass decently, kick really well, defended aggressively, and was really, really gobby and loud and supposedly a good leader. But I actually think what happened to him? After a long career at Saracens, he got cyberbullied to the point that he left the country. He fucked off to France. And then he did this fake... Do you remember? I remember because it was fucking gross. The season that he was going to be leaving to France, he suddenly was a new, more positive version of Owen Farrell. He was all cheerful and laughing and stuff. And everyone was trying to sell this idea that he's got a new lease on life. He's happier now. He's moving on. He's going to go to France and have a great... So then he went to France, was shit there, came back with his tail between his legs. There's no way around it. He failed in France, came back to Saracens, hasn't really been that good. And I realized something when I was talking to Moony. There's a very good argument that fucking around with Owen Farrell at 12 is the precise cause of the absolute disaster we've had with England's midfield for years up until now. I think we didn't put real centres in there. We didn't develop them. We just constantly had to have Ford and Farrell or Marcus Smith and Owen Farrell, whoever. He was basically always filling that role. And then because of that, they wanted to use Henry Slade in a similar way. And I think we could have been, I almost said breeding. That is definitely the wrong word. We could have been grooming, developing players I'm trying to think who's the right age. We could have got Nick Tompkins in there before he went to Wales. I know a lot of you don't rate Nick Tompkins, but I do. I really would have loved to have stolen Rory Hutchinson because he's a fucking genius. But there's probably other players that I'm forgetting who are more appropriate to be mentioned. For a while there, Ollie Lawrence wasn't getting in. I see that as a real problem. So I don't remember why Farrell came up. I think I was just thinking it would have been nice if Billy Searle could have gone up against Owen Farrell and outplayed him. I know that Moony says that Skinner completely outplayed Farrell when they played, but then he also says he completely outplayed Marcus Smith, and it's like, people are being too hard on Marcus Smith. In that Saints versus Quins match, I thought he was fine. I mean, he got shrugged off by that insane try by what's-his-face, Todoro or whatever his name is, I can't think of it right now. That looked bad, but he put in some big hits throughout the match, and he was busy and looked actually quite good in a lot of ways. People are too hard on Marcus Smith. Don't get me wrong, even I have started to doubt him, whereas there was a time when I was like, he's the man. For me, it's still Finn Smith is the man. George Ford can play a role. Marcus Smith is still there or thereabouts. And now we've got Billy Searle coming in, so who knows? That's my podcast, and I'm sticking to it. This is just under an hour of the main pod. I think overall, this will be another hour plus, over an hour YouTube video. I can't imagine anyone wants to watch the whole thing, but I'm just going to keep putting them out there. There's nothing that can be done at this stage. I was going to do shout outs, wasn't I? So let's try that really quick. Fuck. I don't want to fuck up the name. I want to make sure I don't forget. So, first of all, shout outs to all the rugby brethren. Egg Chasers, Tim Cocker, JB, Phil, all of you. They do hype me up a lot on their podcast. For some reason I get mentioned quite a lot, and I'm sure it helps me out. Shout out to Moony, my arch nemesis, who is building as we speak an army of his minions in my Instagram account. Every day I get multiple people following me. I tell people, let me know who you are when you follow me, otherwise I'm not going to be able to accept it because I won't know who you are. For some reason they will not send me messages, but I can tell Exeter Chiefs fans and Mooney minions when I see them. And it's like, yesterday I got like a dozen of them following me, and it's very ominous. I'm wondering what's going to happen with that. Shout out to all of them. Shout out to Mooney. Shout out to, he said I could use his real name, Mark Abrahams, aka WD40. Well, aka WD40. He sent me a Christmas present out of nowhere, which was nice. You can all do that. I have Cash App, I have Venmo, I have all that shit. No, it's not expected, but it was lovely of him to do that, and helpful because I'm a broke ass. I almost said the N-word. I can't say that anymore. I used to have a black girlfriend, so I could say it. Now I can't. I can never say it. More shout-outs. Nah, I can't be asked. That was a shit shout-outs. Basically, Egg Chasers, all rugby brethren, and Mark Abrahams because he sent me money. Thanks for watching. Thanks for if you did. Thanks for listening. Do me a favor, if you're listening, just find my videos and like them. You don't have to watch them. Just help my algorithm. Is that the right term for the algorithm? Just make me look like less of a loser. Follow me on Instagram if you haven't. Please tell me why you're following me, unless it's really obvious from your account that you are into rugby. That's at Eddie Stevens Massive. Follow me on TikTok. I'll be putting stand-up on there at Eddie Stevens 0. You can follow me on Facebook if you want to. Eddie Stevens, I think that's who I am. I'm going to go now. I'm shit at these endings. Goodbye. Fucking leave me alone. Damn it.